So Israel Adesanya is doing it again. He is pretending that he grew up in extreme poverty. I don't know why he always does this, but whenever he's coming off of a loss, I guess this is just to motivate him by lying and pretending that he's someone who he isn't. I don't know why he does it, but in the build up to the Alex Pereira rematch, he did the same thing. He said that people of the favelas could relate to him because they know what he's been through. Bear in mind, Israel Adesanya grew up with multiple servants, and we're going to be talking about that in today's video. He grew up reasonably well off. He has been pretty rich his whole life. I don't know why he's lying about this. It makes zero sense. But he's doing it again, and he's just done it here. This now has 2.3 million views, and the vast majority of the replies are saying, aren't you the guy that grew up with multiple servants, who had a personal bathing servant until you were 8 years old, so much so that you didn't know how to bathe yourself until you were 8, where you finally learned. Just saying. We're going to let this little bit play. He's talking about this interview here from Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, who had some good points, but Dricus weren't talking about him. You ain't a champ, little bro. You're a random guy who's lucky to be signed by the UFC. Either way, we're going to play this one right here.
You know, Abdulrazak said it before his fight about 3 weeks ago, saying like,
and this was the interview with Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, which we're going to go through as well.
I respect Dricus, but he's a bitch for what he said. He's a bitch because Dricus is saying, I train in Africa, I do this in Africa, and then people like Razak.
He does. I don't know why. I'm going to break this down as it goes. I don't know why that's a problem to them. I train in Africa. I grew up in Africa. And they say it in a voice like, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's just how it is. That's just reality. What is the... I don't know why this has triggered him so much. But we know because Dricus has struck a nerve here, okay? Little scratch at the truth, maybe. Notice Ngannou hasn't had any problems with anything Dricus has said. Because who knows? Maybe Ngannou knows it probably wasn't aimed at him as much as it was Adesanya and Usman, who have had huge problems with it. Ngannou is still yet to say anything. Because he's probably like, can't be talking about me. Either way, we'll let it play. What does Israel Adesanya have to say?
And myself who are forced to flee our own country because of I train in Africa, I do this in Africa, and then people like Razak and myself who are forced to flee our own country because of, you know, a better opportunity.
No. This is maybe the most disgusting thing a UFC fighter has ever done, and they've done some disgusting things. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan and myself were forced to flee our country. I'm sorry. I'm going to let it play all the way through. This is fucking insane that this guy's... It's like the audacity to say that. When I tell you Abdulrazak Al-Hassan's origin story, and Israel Adesanya has just sort of lumped himself into that same conversation, forced to flee. He had a bathing servant until he was 8 years old. Multiple family servants. And a lot of people are saying, oh, that's actually kind of normal for middle-class Nigerians. Yes. Ones that aren't being forced to flee. You know what I'm saying? I bet you Abdulrazak Al-Hassan didn't have no servants. Not multiple. Not a specific one for bathing only until he was 8 years old. And he thought, maybe I should learn how to do this for myself. Insane. I'm going to let it play through, though. The fact that he just said that are like Abdul and me who were forced to flee. Crazy.
He'll never understand that because he lives behind the fucking gates of his privileged life in South Africa, and he's able to do that there. So someone like Francis, who had to cross the desert to go overseas to go train, if you know Francis' story, you can't call him not a real African champion.
I've looked up... By the way, this is the crazy bit. Behind the gates of his community in South Africa... Like, I've looked up where Dricus Du Plessis... It's a fucking town in the middle of nowhere. You can look up on the map where Dricus is from. It's like in the middle of nowhere in South Africa. Maybe there's a gate. I don't know. Maybe having a gate is just different level shit. But like, I don't know if he grew up in like a first world rich US Californian community of gated this and have your ID card to get in. I don't know. But either way, the fact that Adesanya is pretending that he had to flee his country is fucking insane.
go overseas to go train. If you know Francis' story, you can't call him not a real African champion because he didn't train in Africa. It's like, bro, are you fucking kidding? The guy got sent back out to the desert 6, 7 times to go die, and he survived. Like the things he said, and even without Francis being champion, without myself being champion, without Kamaru being champion, he would have never been champion. We paved the way for him, and then he comes out there and
he'd begun his career before you were champions. This is the thing. It's crazy how much hatred there is in Israel Adesanya for Dricus. Over nothing. Over nothing. Edwards did this to Bisping. Moreno did this to Velasquez. First one born and raised here. He wasn't really born and raised there when you think about it. I'm doing it out of here. This is going to be more motivational to the people that are here to show them that you can do it out of here. And it's just insane to me that he just lies. It's just he hates him for nothing. There should be no back. Like, he's responding on behalf of Ngannou. Usman has done this as well. Ngannou doesn't give a fuck. Has never given a fuck. Because it doesn't, I don't think it applies to Ngannou as much. You know? But honestly, I think Dricus' comments were mainly aimed at Adesanya and Usman. And then he went back and forth with them afterwards and more comments were made. But there was never an involvement of Ngannou here. He never saw what Dricus said and thought, how dare you say that about me? He probably thought, must be talking about Adesanya and Usman. I don't give a fuck. And just never responded. But these guys are like bringing Ngannou into it now. I get it, but it's just crazy to me. We're going to go through more.
And tries to take it all for himself. What kind of mindset is it that you see 3 African champions and you're going to be the 4th one? He tries to say, take it all for himself. That's a colonialist mindset. And he doesn't understand the error of his ways. But I will show him the way.
That's a colonialist mindset. Leon Edwards, that colonialist, huh? How dare Leon Edwards say that about Michael Bisping? That's just a colonialist mindset from Leon Edwards right there. God. It's just in his blood, that Leon Edwards guy, I tell you. Good Lord. Honestly. That's what I see. I look at Leon Edwards, I see colonialism. That's what I see, honestly. It's crazy. It really is. That's just in his nature, this Leon Edwards guy. Who does he think he is? It's just because Dricus is white and it's triggering them that maybe the king of Africa could be a white guy. And I think it's triggering a lot of people. And I'll tell you who it's triggering. I don't see many, like maybe this is because there's not many African accounts because it's not as well off of a continent, let's just say. I'm seeing like people in America having massive problems with this. And like not African accounts. There's just like American black people that have huge, huge problems with what Dricus has said. And like barely any Africans have a problem with it. I don't understand. But either way, we'll go through some of this. He said he had to flee his country. Israel Adesanya, I think right about here. Yeah! He said he had to flee his country. It's not working. Twitter's bullshit of a fucking thing.
Champion because he didn't train. He's a bitch because Dricus is saying I trained in Africa, I do this in Africa, and then people like Razak and myself who are forced to flee our own country.
Forced to flee. I'm going to read you Abdul Razak Al Hassan's upbringing, and then I'm going to read you Israel Adesanya's upbringing, okay? We're going to have some fun. This is Abdul Razak Al Hassan's upbringing. And Abdul Razak Al Hassan's backstory is nothing less than a roller coaster ride. Judo Thunder's career started when he witnessed the life of his parents. His father's story was the reason why he wanted to be a fighter and give them a good life. I'm getting hiccups. Al Hassan was just a kid when his father, who was a small-time trader, moved to Liberia for better trading opportunities. This isn't Adesanya's accountant father moving to New Zealand for better accounting gigs and jobs that he could get. Better trading opportunities. However, things turned downhill as he got himself entangled in the First Liberian Civil War. This is Abdul Razak whatever his name is, Abdul Razak Al Hassan's upbringing. Things turned downhill as he got himself entangled in the First Liberian Civil War. It was very hard for our family, he said. He was there and we all loved him, and then boom, he's gone like that and we don't hear from him at all. We had nothing and we had to scrape by on what we could. We'd eat once a day, if we even had food. Hard times shaped Al Hassan to be the ultimate best version of himself. Just when the entire family thought Garba to be dead, who was the dad of Abdul, a ray of hope came towards them. After years of his disappearance, a stranger came to the family with a cassette tape that Garba had recorded. They thought he might have died. However, the reality was beautiful for them. We just said, we don't care what happened. We just want you home alive. This is a guy who's grew up in extreme poverty in Ghana. His father did a desperate attempt to another really poor country to try and have a little bit of a better opportunity for himself and got tangled up in a civil war in Liberia. Never to be seen for years and years in Abdulrazak Al-Hassan's life. And he had to make do with his mum only. Some days he wouldn't eat food. This is what Abdulrazak Al-Hassan says about his upbringing. Now let's look at Israel Adesanya's upbringing, shall we? He was born in Lagos, Nigeria in 1989 to an upper middle class family. The first of 5 children. Although the country's civil society buckled under rising corruption and successive juntas and coups in the 1980s and 90s, the Adesanyas lived in relative comfort. Young Israel didn't learn how to bathe himself until he was 8 years old. He recalls, when he insisted he no longer needed the aid of his family's domestic servants. Don't believe the multiple articles saying that Adesanya said this to them. How about you believe Adesanya's words himself? Let's let it play.
A better opportunity. He'll never understand that because he lives behind the gates of his privileged life in South Africa, and he's able to do that there.
Yeah. That's Adesanya talking about Du Plessis just now in the interview. And this is Adesanya from an interview when he first got to the UFC and was told to detail his life story. Let's let it play.
I didn't even know how to bathe for myself till I was about 8 or 7 or something, because we had housemaids, cooking for us, bathing us. And it wasn't until I think maybe 8 years old I realized this wasn't like every kid that had that. So I was like, nah, I can do it myself now.
How brave of him. No, he said at 8 years old, I can do this myself when it came to washing himself. Sorry, let that play one more time, please. This is Israel Adesanya, who had to flee his country. Like Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, I'm about to show you him getting furious with Dricus. If you are really against the things that you said in the video and not just against the white guy in Dricus because he's white and you don't like it, then you'll go at Adesanya with more energy than you had for Du Plessis.
Or 7 or something, because we had housemaids, cooking for us, bathing us. And it wasn't until I think maybe 8 years old I realized this wasn't like every kid that had that. So I was like, nah, I can do it myself now.
Wow, dude. What a struggle, dude. Housemaids for everything. Bathing us, cooking for us. Everything, dude. I bet they were wafting him with like a palm leaf as well, feeding him grapes on his chaise longue. You know what I mean? Fan me, my disciple. And then someone just comes in with a big palm frond and just wafts it towards him. Like, this is insane. That this guy is the one talking about poverty and all of this. I want to get into Abdulrazak Al-Hassan and what he's been saying. But Adesanya also did this thing about his wage that I want to talk about in like a desperate plea to then backtrack. This literally came out a day after him saying that he had to flee his country. Everyone shit on him. Then this interview clip gets posted around. And it's him talking about his wage. But we're first going to look at what Abdulrazak Al-Hassan said, because he got so angry at Dricus. But the reasons he got angry at Dricus for, he has none of that energy for Adesanya. Which makes me think it's not about the reasons, it's about who's saying it. That's all I'm going to say. Let's let it play from Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. Let it go.
I respect Dricus. I respect his the part of, say, he represents in Africa, right? I respect the things he's done in MMA. But he's a f***ing bitch. He's a
Whoa. Energy shifted up there.
f***ing asshole for that word that he used, right? If he's a f***ing real African and he lived in Africa, he would have never used that f***ing word. He's a f***ing bitch.
Now, the annoying thing about this was the way Abdulrazak Al-Hassan worded this was so basically intentionally fucking vague to where the majority of the internet at the time thought that Dricus had dropped the hard R N-word at someone. Like a lot of people that had no idea about this Dricus Du Plessis Adesanya thing. This got 2.2 million views on Twitter. He was so fucking annoyingly vague. He would have never used that word. Oh, the real word? That's the one everyone thinks about when you say the word, isn't it? Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. He was so cuntily vague that immediately people who have no idea are going to jump to the fact that, oh my God, Dricus must have used the M-word. No. The real African champ. The thing they're all so upset about.
Has to use that word. Because an African, right, if he raised the poor people in Africa the way I was raised, the way I grew up with how I go days without food.
This is facts. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, this is facts. However, he weren't talking about you. You're not a champ. I'm sorry. He said, I'm going to be the real African champ. I'm going to prove that you can do it out of Africa, training out of Africa, in Africa, never having to go anywhere else to get it done. Africans, you can do it from Africa. You don't need to go elsewhere. We're doing it from Africa. You know, if you go to Dricus Du Plessis' gym, which I have been, so I'm actually quite entitled to speak on this because, funnily enough, I've spent more time in Africa over the past year than Israel Adesanya has. Just saying, I'm kind of an expert on this topic, guys. You know, I've spent more time than Israel Adesanya in Africa over the past year, so I'm kind of an expert on this topic. If you go there, it's not just South African white guys in a gym. There's guys from all places around that region of Africa that have come to train in that gym. I ask people, so, you know, where did you come to train from? And, or how far do you even travel to get here? And this guy say, oh, I'm actually from the Congo, or I'm from fucking Tanzania, or this place or that place. I can't even remember all the names of the places, but they're from all these different places in Africa. It's not just Dricus, Cameron Simon, and what's his name? Mark Hume, just all training with each other in South Africa. There's like a bunch of others. So I don't know why they're that's what Dricus' message was. And Abdulrazak Hassan, it wasn't to you. The message wasn't to you. You're not a champ, little bro. You're a random bottom feeder middleweight who just got a DQ because he illegally elbowed Cody Brundage over and over again. You couldn't even beat him clean. And it's like, he wasn't talking to you. Why are you so upset? You're not a champ. He weren't going at you at all. So you're getting upset on behalf of, again, Adesanya, who was the main person he got upset on behalf of in this interview, who grew up richer than Dricus Du Plessis by far.
I have to see my friends eating, and I'll be like, hey, bro, can you give me 1 teaspoon of your food so I can put in my mouth?
And this is true. Abdulrazak Hassan grew up rough, really rough.
That's how I'll survive for a few days until I can get money. So if we get the opportunity to leave that shithole, of course, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call my country a shithole, but I'm poor. If I can go to America, right, or I can go
what a patriot.
To a different country to make a better life for myself, I'll cut out of my leg to go, right? If he's a true African, right, he would have understood that. That means he's living the comfortable life. His family had the money to feed him every day, so he didn't have to worry about living to go and make it. So for him to say he's a true African champion that lived there and he made it, he's a fucking bitch for saying that. I respect what he's done, but he's a bitch for that.
So by Abdulrazak Hassan's logic, him and Adesanya went back and forth after this, and Adesanya responded to it and said, my guy, or whatever he said, or he started rallying behind Abdul's plights. All of the reasons he hates Dricus for saying that, and diminishes Dricus as you're not the real African champ, you haven't been through the struggle that we've been through. He should hate Adesanya for the same reasons, but he doesn't. I don't know what the difference could possibly be, you guys. I have no idea what the difference could be. I don't quite know what the massive difference is between Adesanya and Du Plessis, to where even though Adesanya grew up far richer than Du Plessis did, by far, way richer than Du Plessis did, Abdulrazak Hassan's angry at Du Plessis and not Adesanya for reasons of you grew up so rich, you don't understand being poor.
About 8 or 7 or something, because we had housemaids, you know, cooking for us, bathing us. And it wasn't until, like, I think maybe 8 years old, I realized this wasn't like every kid that had that. So I was like, nah, I can do it myself now.
But it's Dricus Du Plessis who doesn't understand what it is to be a real African, isn't it, Abdulrazak Hassan? He wasn't talking to you. You're a bum. You aren't a champ. He was talking about the champs. He's mainly talking about Adesanya and Usman because he was trying to start beef with Adesanya because he was in his division. It was most light-hearted beef, and they're all having a meltdown about it. It's insane. Fucking insane. And Abdulrazak Hassan, you know, he's been through what he's been through, so I get it from his perspective, but he's like being offended on behalf of Adesanya when Adesanya's the guy that is who he thinks Dricus Du Plessis is in terms of upbringing. And I also don't like this message. As an English guy, let me speak up for Africa here. Dricus is sending a message that you can do it from Africa. You don't have to leave. We'll do it from Africa and we'll build a super team here. Come down from whatever country you're from and you can train here in Africa. They got a sponsor. There's an energy brand that goes with the gym and they actually pay the people that fight there and sponsor the fighters that fight there. So they come down, they get sponsored by this energy drink brand, and that's all done through the owner of the gym, who's Dricus Du Plessis' coach, co-owner, I think. I'm not sure if that's entirely correct, but I was told that. And they bring people from around Africa to train in this gym. That's the message they're sending. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan's message is, you don't understand what it is to be a real African because you've never had to flee the country and go elsewhere. That's such a damaging message, as real as it may be in some parts. What message are we trying to push here? It's insane. Then there's this as well. This is Israel Adesanya. You know, I've told you about the upbringing and all of this, but this is him trying to relate. And by the way, Dricus Du Plessis, this is the same website that did this, which was the backstory of Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. Now, we don't know what job Dricus Du Plessis' dad did. I don't think he was ridiculously rich. I really don't. I think his dad and mum worked hard at jobs and they gave him opportunities. I don't think he was struggling in poverty. Not in any way whatsoever. He probably had a very stable, functional family because his parents worked very stable jobs. Okay? That's my guess. Heaven fucking forbid. Heaven forbid his parents work really hard to build where they're at so their kids can have opportunities from where they're at. There's maybe a broader conversation to be had about that. Who knows? But either way, this is the same website. So if I'm going to use this to trust Abdulrazak Al-Hassan's backstory, I'll use it to trust Dricus's. Don't know how much this is true, but Israel Adesanya mentioned colonialism earlier on in the video. Dricus Du Plessis is speculated to have ancestors who migrated to South Africa from France. The reason for the migration was religious persecution, which led them to leave their home country of France to settle in Brandenburg, Prussia. However, the 30-year-old believes wholeheartedly that he's South African and takes pride because he has multiple generations that go back to South Africa. But still, you're going to talk about fleeing a country? I don't know, dude. Israel Adesanya is a rich descendant of Yoruba. I don't know if anyone did any history when they left school and saw the broader spectrum of history, but let's just say that certain Africans were getting sold and other ones were selling. And Israel Adesanya is of a rich family of Yoruba descent. Don't know if anyone's looked up the Yoruba and the Igbos or anything along those lines, but I'm not going to get into it in this video because it's a massive, massive history documentary. But let's just say that Israel Adesanya's ancestors ain't so innocent. If we really want to paint people by the brush of their ancestors here, Israel Adesanya. Just say it. Some people were being sold, some people were selling. And Israel Adesanya's of the Yoruba tribe. Really rich family of the Yoruba tribe. Who are A-okay with having multiple servants, even in this generation. Even if my parents were rich and I could afford servants, they wouldn't. They wouldn't want to. They wouldn't feel right with it. That's all I'm saying. Either way, this is the other thing that Israel Adesanya did.
And just send a
This is about Alex Pereira and the favelas.
message to your fans in Brazil.
I love my Brazilian fans. Even when I was out there, they love me. The favelas love me. They can relate to me. They understand what I've been through. But again,
just bullshit. Just bullshit. He just wants to be in poverty when he's never been. This is him trying to relate as well. This is the funniest thing to me. And I don't know if your parents struggled like mine did growing up, chat. I didn't grow up with, listen, I grew up, grand scheme of the world, very privileged. But within my region, not so privileged, you know what I'm saying? That's how you got to word things these days, especially when you're from a first world country. I'm very thankful. Okay, it's a very rare spawn point here that I've got, and it's a good one. But compared to my environment, not privileged at all. Compared to the world's environment, I was privileged, of course, just to be living in England. But let's go through this. This is so funny to me because I laughed straight away when I saw it. Israel Adesanya trying to be relatable.
Oh, guess what I found the other day? A letter. She found a letter she was cleaning from 2012 from my last job that I ever worked. And it was a letter.
And this is funny that this circulated just after he was being called out for faking being poor. That's why I want to play this.
For my pay rise. Guess how much it was? 14th August 2012.
2012, he finds an old pay rise letter when he was 22 years old, 23 years old.
Wow. I am pleased to advise that your base salary has been increased by 2% to $38,242 per annum. Wrote this, word right there.
So he's been given a 2% raise.
Yeah.
Israel replied with, fucking kidding, right?
Now, they laugh at this, and they're going to play it through here, and you'll get a better understanding of it.
You that your base salary has been increased by 2% to $38,242.
So he's now making At 23 years old, this is Adesanya's attempt to show that the humble roots that he came from. Servants growing up, moved him to New Zealand so he'd be graduate from a more internationally respected school. They had a choice of where to go. They went to New Zealand so they could get an internationally respected education for their son. Understandable. If I had rich parents, I'm sure they would do the same thing. Okay, Israel Adesanya, it's all good. This is the funny part to me. His wages at 23 years of age increased to $38,000 per year. Whoa, how the fuck was this guy getting by? Whoa, you kidding me? He was scraping by off $38,000 a year at 23 years of age. Young single man. No way, dude. No way. I don't believe it. I don't believe this for 1 second. This guy was getting by on $38,000 a year. And this is the funniest thing because it's like, see, I didn't have it all. You know, I came from humble beginnings, making nearly $40,000 a year. At 23, single guy. My parents would have loved over 2K a month. Hey, Dre, 2K a month? This guy's rich. Now, I've done well. I've broken the family chain, and I'm very proud of myself for it. Thank you guys for the donations and the views. I get it, but honestly, dude, if I grew up and heard 100 a day, what? This guy's rich. This guy's making 100 a day right now. This guy's making 2K a month. What? And Israel Adesanya's like, see, I came from humble beginnings. Look, I was nearly on 40K a year when I was 23. This guy was living it. Anyway, that's just what I thought I'd mention. And then one more time before the end, just to really hit home the idea here.
Till I was about 8 or I didn't even know how to bathe for myself till I was about 8.
Right, that's where we'll leave it. Okay, because I learned at 1. Like everyone did, Israel Adesanya. We learned at 1. Okay? I don't even know what the logistics is behind that. Maybe we didn't learn at 1. But still. We learned when we were toddlers. Okay? Like real babies did. Okay? Anyway. Funny stuff. I just thought I'd break it down because I'm sick of him lying. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan is angry at Dricus for reasons that he should be angry at Adesanya for. But he's defending Adesanya for the reasons why he's angry at Dricus, even though those reasons should apply to Adesanya more than they do for Dricus. Why is there a different energy for Dricus than there is Adesanya? Who knows? Dricus was talking about champs, not you, little bro. You're lucky you're still signed by the fucking UFC. You're trash. And you're angry at Dricus because he's white, let's face it. Lying about his upbringing again. Fucking bullshit. Fled my country. Didn't know how to bathe himself till he was fucking 8. Tries to relate to the world by showing that he only made $40,000 a year. Probably 9 to 5. Used to be a, what was it? What did he used to be? It doesn't really say what job he had here, but still. But yeah, really interesting stuff. Thought I'd play it for you guys. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. He just loves lying about his upbringing. And I don't know why. But I think it's like his struggle fitting in, I think, is like a big part of this. Like, he just never related to those around him because he was always isolated. Like, I think he even said this, like he wanted to try and go out and play with some of the poorer kids. I don't know where the interview is, but I've heard him or Usman say that. And I'm sure there is just some kind of identity crisis here that he's dealing with where he should have had all of these things that he could say about himself because of where he's from. But because he's from such a niche, he can't say all of that. So it's like people have seen him as if he should have had certain upbringing. Oh, you're from Nigeria or Africa? You must have had it rough. And maybe he's been going along with it for so long that the reality hurts. You didn't struggle for shit at all. These guys were working full-time while you were going around country in New Zealand doing freestyle breakdance tournament competitions. You not like us. Sometimes you really got to pop out and show. I'm not going to say that, though, because I am not like them, really. But, he not like us. He not like us. Fucking bitch.